Hey Gators and sports fans, get all your Gator talk, news, analysis, and opinions on the Pod Up with Matthews in the Morning podcast. Find us on your favorite podcast platform or watch us on Facebook Live between 8 a.m. and 9 a.m. every weekday. Pod Up, because we are Gator fans. So say it's great to be a Florida Gator.
Good morning and welcome to a Thursday edition of Pod Up with Matthews in the Morning from the Crime Prevention Security System Studios. Large enough to serve you, small enough to care. Today we got a good show lined up. We're going to crank it up here in just a minute with our good friend out of Jacksonville, our college football analyst, Brent Beaird. Second portion of the show, we will be joined by the head track coach at the University of Florida, Mouse Holloway. But first, let's get to the Titan MR hotline, and we are joined by our good friend, Brent Beaird. Good morning, Brent. How are you?
Shane, I'm doing well. Good to be with you. And again, it's a wonderful time of year with the Sweet 16 round coming up. So we will have ball Saturday, Sunday, Monday, Tuesday. If people haven't looked at the schedule yet, that's what we're going to be. And then next weekend will be the Final Four, and then obviously we've got spring practice that's going on either at just about every SEC school or some of them have already finished. So it's a wonderful time of year.
It really is. Brent, before we jump into football, a lot of stuff going on there. Just your thoughts on what's going on in the basketball tournament so far.
Well, look, it's been one of frankly, one of the best tournaments that I think we've seen in quite a while. Obviously, with the upsets that we've got some really good games that are coming up. Oregon State and Chicago Loyola, Syracuse and Houston, Villanova, Baylor, Oral Roberts, the team that beat Florida, and then Arkansas. Boy, that a Florida-Arkansas game would have been fascinating Saturday night to have seen that. Creighton plays Gonzaga, who's kind of steamrolled their way through right now. Oregon and USC, that's a Pac-12 game. You don't get a lot of conference games, but if, again, you've got that one, then Arkansas, Florida would have been another one. Florida State and Michigan play Sunday night. UCLA plays Alabama on Sunday night too. So a group of a lot of really good games coming up over the weekend.
Yeah, it really is. You know, I agree with you. I think it's been an outstanding tournament. Obviously, the way the Florida game ended kind of bothers a lot of people, but it is what it is, and it's still it's been a fun tournament to watch, and this is a great time of the year. Tom says here on Facebook Live, brought to you by Melvin Law. He says, Brent is from Walker County, Alabama. Is that right, Brent?
That is correct. That's right.
You got fans all over the world here, Brent.
Well, I appreciate that. That Walker County will always be near and dear to my heart. They play some good football up there, too, in that area. So, and hope to be back up there sometime in the next few weeks.
No doubt about it. So, Brent, let's jump into kind of going around the SEC. Alabama, what's going on? They've started practice, but one of their coaches is taking a leave of absence. Jay Graham, who was a running back at Tennessee, has been coaching a long time. Going to go deal with some mental health issues, correct?
Yeah, that's kind of the press release that Graham put out. I've also heard that this may not have been a fit for both. And look, sometimes it just doesn't work. But certainly wish Jay Graham well. If that name sounds familiar to your listeners, it should, because he obviously was a really good running back at Tennessee. Now, as an assistant coach, my understanding is he's done a nice job. He's a good recruiter. You probably heard that, maybe know more about him. But at this point, I'm sure Saban will probably wait until the spring is over, and then probably add someone else to that staff. No real idea who that might be right now, but that's kind of unusual when you hire someone and a couple months later that they decide to leave. But right now, that's a situation with Jay Graham.
What was he coaching there, Brent?
He was coaching tight ends.
Okay.
And also special teams. And I think that sometimes is more and particularly with a coach like Saban, and I'm not saying he can't coach special teams and tight ends, but the guy is a really good recruiter. And for Nick Saban and the elite coaches, that's what the world revolves around, and that would have still been his number one, I think, goal for them would have been recruiting. So, but at this point, it won't be.
Yeah, I was wondering it because I knew he wasn't coaching running backs because former Gator Robert Gillespie's their running back coach now.
Yes.
Auburn has cranked up spring ball. Mike Bobo has said Bo Nix will be under center a lot this year, huh?
Yeah. He made that statement this week. I'm curious what you think about that. And for our listeners, I think everybody knows by now that Shane and I are based on the same page with Bo, that he's a real talent, but it has not worked real well so far. He doesn't trust his offensive line. Some of that's Auburn coach's fault because they've struggled in recruiting, particularly tackles on the offensive line. And now look, Bo can be effective when he's scrambling, and particularly when he's trying to get valuable yardage for first down. He's got a good arm. But the problem is he loses Seth Williams, Eli Stove, and Anthony Swartz at wide receiver. Now he's got probably the best back, arguably, in the league coming back, and Tank Bigsby, which will help him considerably. But Shane, is it that much of a transition to go from pretty much taking every snap in the shotgun to being back under center?
I don't think it really matters. I mean, here's the thing with him. I don't know if he's ever lined up under center since probably his Pop Warner days. If you think about it, he played for his dad in high school, which, they played a couple games on ESPN. Never was under center. Never was under center under Gus Malzahn. So for a guy who's never done it, I could see it be an issue, Brent, because your footwork's different. It's totally different. And, I've said many times, I could be proven wrong, but I don't think Bo Nix can play in the SEC at a high level. I think he's one of these guys that looks great at the Elite 11s camps and combines because he's very athletic, got a good arm. But when the bullets start flying and when it's important and making reads and throwing accurately and anticipating, I just haven't seen it. And I was going to ask you too, Brent, and I'm trying to remember who it was, but did you see the comments, and maybe it was on Twitter or whatever, about Gus Malzahn's offense is horrible for anybody to go to the next level? I think it was it Jordan Palmer who trains kids? Quarterback said that about his offense, how nobody is ready to play in the NFL coming out of a Gus Malzahn offense. And they basically were talking about Jared Stidham not having a clue once he got to the NFL.
Look, that's not real surprising. I mean, the truth of the matter is Gus has a real reputation to be your quote-unquote quarterback whisperer. But look, even Auburn beat writers will tell you that he really struggles in developing quarterbacks. So I can see that easily why that it would take Stidham and former Auburn quarterbacks quite a while to be developed. So no, that's a real problem. And as we mentioned a minute ago, he also really struggles in developing offensive linemen, in being able to recruit offensive linemen. I mean, the tackle position, Auburn beat writers will tell you they haven't recruited that position well since around 2017. So you put all that together, and you can see some of the reasons why Auburn has struggled over the last few years.
Yeah. Up in Athens, man, a bad break for a really good player.
Yeah, this was the toughest news of the week by far, because George Pickens tore his ACL, tore it on Tuesday in practice. So obviously, probably once the swelling goes down, he will have surgery. And the question's going to be, how soon will he be able to come back? I think, Shane, from just a pure physical standpoint, the surgery now for the ACL is so advanced. I mean, we're seeing guys being able to come back after 6 months. But my question to you is, and this is what I've heard forever, and it still is apropos today, it's one thing to get the surgery and be physically back. It's another to be mentally back. And I've talked to a lot of guys, I'm sure you have too, who have had ACL surgery, and a lot of them will tell you that it is a year until that surgery is over, until they really feel psychologically comfortable in being on the field.
Yeah, and it's as you mentioned, Brent. I don't know how he can play football this year, but modern technology, modern medicine, crazy things have happened. But you're right; it's always going to be a doubt if you come back too soon with an ACL. And Dan mentions here on Facebook Live, brought to you by Mellon Law, it was a non-contact drill, and it's amazing how many different ways you can get injured nowadays.
Sure.
But it's a shame for him. He's a really good player, and that definitely hurts Georgia. You heard anything about the quarterback situation up there? I know JT Daniels is their guy, but they still have the kid out of Jacksonville that was highly recruited,
Right.
and then they have another. Is it Vandergolf or something like that? That was a 5-star.
Right. Well,
any news about them?
Yes. Interestingly, this week, Kirby was doing some radio hits and actually said that JT Daniels is the starter. I mean, there wasn't any comment about we're going to have competition this spring. He just said, look, he's the guy. So, which I can understand that, and that's pretty obvious that he is. So he's going ahead and anointing him the starter. Now, who's the backup is another story. Carson Beck will certainly have a chance at that. Who really did a good job in Jacksonville. He had a better high school junior year than he did his senior year, but Beck is now about 6'4", 215. So he's gotten your proverbial bigger and stronger during his time being there. The other question, as you mentioned, is some of the other guys who were involved. Brock Vandergriff is one of the freshman phenoms who is coming to Georgia. Now, Brock also was hurt this year, so he's going to have to take some time to be able to deal with that. But, I mean, he will be in the mix. Stetson Bennett will be in the mix. We saw Stetson last year, and let's be honest, Stetson is an average quarterback at best. Jamie Newman has obviously moved on. So that's kind of where you are right now. JT Daniels is the guy, and the question is going to be who is going to be the second team guy, and certainly for the people here in the Jacksonville area, hopefully Carson Beck may be able to win that job.
Refresh your vehicle and your brand with a vehicle wrap from WrapSpot. February. March is your lucky month at WrapSpot. Mention promo code Shane and receive 13% off your vehicle wrap. We're speaking of our good friend Brent Beaird, our college football analyst out of Jacksonville. You can follow him on Twitter at Brent Beaird. Second portion of today's show will be joined by Florida Gators track coach Michael Mouse Holloway. Brent, we got a couple of Facebook Lives here. Sandy says she wants to see the orange and blue game. Well, Sandy, you're going to have to wait till next year, not one this year. Tom says UAB will upset Georgia week 2. I don't know about that, but
well, I'll say this: UAB is well coached, and UAB is moving into the new stadium,
right.
and I believe that's coming up this year also. And I'm not sure I'd want to play them for a non-conference foe, but because of how well coached they are, and they do have some talent there. Also, but I'm with you. I mean, Georgia just has a better roster in that game.
Yes, that is true. All right, so let's go down to Baton Rouge. What a mess is going on there with all their athletic programs. Well, I should say football and basketball. But tell our listeners about that comment that Coach O said the other day.
He made a couple of comments this week that were head scratchers, even for Ed O. The first one is I hired some coaches I didn't even interview from the last staff, and I'm never going to do that again. I interviewed everybody this time. Now, Sonny, the former Auburn basketball coach, Sonny Smith, has a saying that he comes up with every now and then, and that saying is, I don't think I'd have told that. That, and I would add that what Ed said to that category. And Ed also said on the hiring of defensive coordinator Durante Jones, the quote is, Durante was like the fourth or fifth choice, but who cares? So was I.
Oh, wow. Wow.
So, Ed's had a few good ones this week, to say the least. Now, also off the field, LSU former president King Alexander, who is at Oregon State, has resigned amid some of the backlash in his role in the sexual misconduct situation at LSU. And again, we don't know where that's going to go, but that's a Title IX situation, which, believe me, is very serious, to say the least. Now, on the field, John Emery is coming back from a shoulder surgery, so he's not going to be doing much. And Ty Davis-Price is also dealing with an injury with that, too. Now, look, again, they will be very good, and Miles Brennan is probably going to be the quarterback. Obviously, Johnson, who we saw last year, Brad Johnson's son, Max, will be good, too, and they'll be worth watching. But listen, the off the stuff for LSU this year will have a lot more weight to carry. That will directly affect the on-the-field stuff sooner than later.
Yeah, I believe King Alexander's a Gainesville Buchholz graduate as well. Tom says on Facebook Live, every Coach O comment is a head scratcher. That is true. It's going to be interesting to see what happens down there. It's a mess. All right, up in Oxford, the Rebels have cranked up spring ball, but missing some players.
They started on Tuesday, and this is going to be a fascinating team. They bring back 66 letterman from last year's team. Obviously, Matt Corral will be the quarterback again, Jerron Ely. And look, they can run the ball. Now, some of the guys missing spring, speaking of Jerron Ely, he will miss spring, and John Rice Plumlee, both those guys play for the Ole Miss baseball team. Mm-hmm. So they're just out for baseball. There's some injured guys, tight end Casey Kelly, safety Dylan Gill, and defensive back DeMarco Williams. Now, look, I'm not predicting they're going to win the West by any stretch, but what they have done as much as anybody in the Western Division is they've really worked on the defensive side of the ball. Now think about this a minute, Shane. You know what they can do offensively with Lane and with Matt Corral. If they're considerably better defensively this season, how tough and out are they going to be?
They are. And Brent, remember, I've told you many times watching them play, and they were fun to watch. Yeah. I'm curious to see if they do play better on defense and the games are somewhat close, how will Lane coach? You know what I'm saying?
That's a great question. Great question.
Because I felt like, nobody expected him to win so many games. Everybody knows he's a riverboat gambler, however you want to phrase it. So, when it's 4th and 7, he was going for it. Sure. Now, are you going to punt it? Are you going to kick a field goal? So I think if they have a better team and they're more competitive, I'm anxious to see how Lane makes some of his coaching decisions.
Well, that's a great point. Or will he continue to gamble the way that he did last year? Look, they frankly, obviously besides Florida, in the postseason, the team that gave Alabama fits more than anybody else was Ole Miss. So they had not one, but 2 of their running backs run for 100 yards against what ended up being a pretty good Alabama defense. So I'm with you. What Lane is going to do there in the next few years is going to be fascinating.
It is. All right. In South Carolina, Shane Beamer, they've started spring ball. What are you hearing out of there?
Their running back, Marshawn Lloyd, who had a knee injury, is on track to come back. I don't think he's going to do much during the spring, 5'9", 210. But they really thought he was tremendous last year in fall camp, and then he tore his ACL, missed all of the season. Now that also helped Kevin Harris kind of rise to the top. But look, Shane, you and I both know, especially with Will, and look, I like Will and appreciate what he did, particularly defensively, but let's be honest, they did not have a lot of game breakers with Will, or at least the guys who were ended up getting hurt. And Lloyd is one of the guys they're expected back. So until they get the quarterback situation straightened out there, and they've got like 3 or 4 guys who are battling for that job. Listen, for them to have a real threat to go the distance of the field at on any play, that'd be tremendous for them, wouldn't it, Shane?
Oh, absolutely. I'm really anxious to see what South Carolina does.
Yes.
I think it's going to be difficult, but I'm anxious to see, are they much more competitive under Shane Beamer? Dan just put on Facebook Live, brought to you by Mellon Law. He said Arkansas had 2,000 to 3,000 fans at their first scrimmage.
Yeah, listen, some of these teams are actually open, and I'm really glad to see this, and more of this needs to go on, is they're letting the fans come in. Now look, did they show much? Probably not, but you got to throw the bone, throw some kind of a bone to your fans at some point. By the way, with the call about the spring game at Florida was not the only school that did not have spring game. Kentucky did not have a spring game, and Virginia Tech is not having a spring game. I think that's disappointing for the fans, but those are 2 other schools besides Florida who did not have a spring game.
Yeah, we've had a lot of people the last couple of weeks upset about that. All right, Tennessee. Did I see that they paused their activities, or am I dreaming things? I could have sworn I saw that. They've had some COVID issues with spring ball.
Now, Texas did, but you're right. Tennessee's had their own issues. One of them is trying to keep people on the team. Right. One of their tight ends, Sean Brown, has entered the transfer portal. Now, let's be honest here. Sean Brown from Rome, Georgia, has not done a whole lot with the school. So this may be more roster management, frankly, than it is anything else. And hopefully he will be okay. But Shane, again, I'm telling you, keep up with this like I do. This transfer portal has been good for some, and it's been really bad for others, because some of these guys end up in the transfer portal thinking they're doing great work, and they just end up being stuck there. So there's going to be a lot of movement in the transfer portal coming up over the next few months.
Yeah, I'm still waiting on that one person to write that article about the kids that have been sitting in the transfer portal for a couple of years now waiting. So, Brent, let's move out of the SEC, go to the ACC. What are you hearing in Tallahassee with Florida State?
I think they're making some progress. They had a scrimmage on Saturday, and the scrimmage was open to the public too, so good for them. By the way, Mackenzie Milton is a 6th-year senior. I saw that written this week and kind of wondered how that was working as far as the eligibility, so that's pretty fascinating. Jordan Travis and Mackenzie Milton played well during the scrimmage. Chubba Purdy, who also played last year, has some collarbone issues. They're trying to get all that cleaned up and healed. Now, one of their walk-on running backs, Trayshawn Ward, W-A-R-D, had 134 yards against the first-team defense. That may not bode well for your first-team defense, but he did have a good scrimmage. Malik McLean, the wide receiver, had 90 yards. Also, the defense is much better with the goal line situation, but they're much better organized this year. They're figuring out what they need to do. So that things are better in Tallahassee this year than they have been in a while.
Yeah, John says on Facebook Live, brought to you by Mellon Law, I saw last night there's over 750 players already in the transfer portal for basketball. And if I'm Mike White, I fill up my roster with transfers. I think that's the way to go in college basketball now. Last thing, Brent, Miami, De'Aaron King, you think he's going to be ready to play when the season cranks up?
Well, they say that he is. Now, again, Derek King obviously got his injury at the end of the season, which has certainly given him a few more months of rehab than what we've got with George Pickens at Georgia. So right now, that they're basically just looking at who's going to back him up. When he gets back, he'll be the number one guy. Tyler Van Dyke and also Jake Garcia are a couple of guys who are involved with that. They really need to get them a number one running back. They've kind of done it by committee. Jalen Knighton is in that mix with them. Don Chaney Jr., Cameron Harris also in that mix. So that's going to be fascinating to kind of see where the Canes go with that too. And remember, Miami opens the season this year in Atlanta against Alabama.
Yeah, good luck with that. Any notes before we let you go, Brent?
Mac Brown has signed an extension, and if he goes to the length of the extension in 2025, he will be 74 years old. And look, if he wants to coach that long with the success he's had so far, I would not be at all surprised if that doesn't happen. So, and by the way, we mentioned LSU a few minutes ago. Miles Brennan was going to be the number one guy. He had a abdomen injury that they had to send out the information on the injury to various doctors, and they said that it was such an unusual injury that if they did surgery on him, they would name the surgery after Miles Brennan. So instead, isn't that wild? So instead, he went through rehab and he's fine. So good for him that he didn't have to go through the surgery with that. That was one of the stranger things that I've heard in quite a while. And by the way, in at Georgia, Adam Anderson, who had 6.5 sacks last year, they're moving him around a little bit to keep him on the field the whole time. So that's a lot of what's going on along that line too. And by the way, Oregon and Alabama, the only two programs in 2021 to have their football team in a New Year's Six Bowl and their basketball team in the Sweet 16. And listen, we don't talk much about Oregon, but boy, the overall for a sports program, what they've really done up there, Shane, has frankly been amazing.
It really is. Brent, we appreciate it as always. We'll talk to you next week. Be safe out there, my man.
You too, brother. Take care. Look forward to it.
As Brent Beaird join us on the Titan Tomorrow hotline, you can follow him on Twitter at Brent Beaird. Going to take our first time out of the program. We come back, we'll be joined by the head track coach here at the University of Florida, Mouse Holloway. You're watching and listening to Pot Up with Matthews in the Morning from the Crime Prevention Security System Studios. We'll be right back.
Hey Gators, this is Coach Steve Spurrier. Pot Up with Matthews in the Morning. We'll be right back after this commercial break.
We want to take this moment to thank all our sponsors who keep the show going and pay the bills. Our gridiron sponsors are Crime Prevention Security Systems, large enough to serve you, small enough to care. Titan MRI, Gainesville's only locally owned and operated MRI facility. Meldon Law, where you matter most. Peachland Dental, Gator Nation's first choice for dentistry in Port Charlotte. Comfort Temp, comfort is our business, peace of mind is our promise. G-Tech Sport, keep your athletes in the game with G-Tech Sport. Celebration Point Town Center, Center State Bank, Chris Doring Mortgage. Some of our touchdown sponsors are Campus USA Credit Union, Adams Rib Company, Doreen Wiebe Realtor Caldwell Banker, MM Parish, Gator Dominoes, Celebrate Primary Care, Gator Bait Media, Rap Spot, Okido America, Gators Dockside, Style Cuts, Ironwood Golf Course, TV Financial, Meadowbrook Golf Course, Darshakow Insurance. If you are interested in promoting your business on the show, visit potupwithshane.com and click the advertise button. Again, thank you to all the great businesses that support the show. If you like what we are doing here, make sure to follow us and support the businesses that support us.
Welcome back to the Crime Prevention Security System Studios, celebration points where the Gators go to celebrate with premium brands like Dave & Buster's, Nike, Sushi Hana, Uzzoline Day Spa, and coming June of 2021, the HBC's new restaurant, Spurrier's Gridiron Grill, and Visor's Rooftop Bar. We will see you at Celebration Point where the Gators go to celebrate. We're now going to go back to the Titan MR Hotline. We're going to be joined by the head track coach here at the University of Florida, probably the most decorated coach with the most national championships, Mouse Holloway. Good morning, Mouse. How are you?
I'm doing great, Shane. How are you this morning?
I'm doing great. All right, I want to go back to your younger days. I got to know. I got to hear the story why you're called Mouse. Tell that story.
Wow. That actually started when I was in the 7th grade. I was like 12 or 13 years old. Was actually a very, very small guy. My junior high school track coach, may he rest in peace, Mr. Gene Shellman. Everybody just had to have a nickname, and he couldn't think of one. My friends called me Peanut. He didn't like Peanut, and we were at a track meet once, and he threw me on a relay, and I ran well. And he actually walked up to me, put his hands out, and said, "Way to run, Mouse." And I asked him later why Mouse, and he said because I was short, I was really quiet. It looked like I was scooting across the floor, and I ran. So that has stuck with me since 1972. So yeah.
Oh, that's awesome. That's awesome. Mouse, you coached at Buchholz, and then you were an assistant. You took over, I want to say maybe 2002 as the head coach. Is that the correct year?
Yes, sir. Yes.
Yeah. So, but now you're coaching both the boys, the men and the women's track teams.
Yes.
I want to ask you, how difficult is it to coach both?
I think it can be difficult if you don't pay attention. I mean, if you have children, dealing with your male child or your female child is different. If you're married, you understand, how you better pay attention to your wife, right? And I think the biggest thing is with the men, you have to be, on top of them because they don't pay as much attention to detail as the women do. And with the women, because they do pay such attention to detail, you better pay attention or they'll make you pay attention. And I think that you have to just coach them and make sure that you find out what their passion is. You find out where they want to go with this, and then kind of trying to find the path to lead them down that path. So I don't find it difficult because I'm a bit of a taskmaster, and I really want to know how great they want to be, and if they'll allow me to get them there, I can get them there. But it can be difficult if you don't pay attention. I think that's the best way to do that.
We got a text here on the Titan MR text line. It comes from Larry. Larry wants to know, out of all the national championships that you have won, is there one year or one team that stands out the most in your mind?
Larry, you are trying to get me in trouble this morning. I think probably the one that I would point to that was kind of, very satisfying was 2016. We'd had an incredible run from, 2010 to 2015. We had been outside the top 3, and then indoors in 2016, I think we were 7th or 8th, and everybody's like, "Oh, the run's over, they're done." And we went outside, and our conference meet didn't go very well, and came back, had a talk with my staff, had a great talk with my man, Matt Delancey, my strength coach. And I told him, the team, I said, if you guys trust me, we're going to win national titles. So we went from being 6th at the outdoor conference meet to a month later, we were the national champions. So that's probably the most satisfying one because everybody had written us on.
Talk a little bit about, because I've always been intrigued by this. You have the indoor season and your outdoor season. And honestly, I want you to comment too, because I don't know where y'all practice for indoor now, because it used to be in the O'Connell Center, right? And
we never practiced in the O'Connell Center. Like it was.
Oh, you never did, but you could have, right? Because there was a track up top.
There was a track upstairs, but we know with all the events, they're always going in there, and I don't think people understand that the Athletic Association doesn't own the O'Connell Center. The university does. So then if you wanted to be in the O'Connell Center, like we would have to rent the O'Connell Center from the university to have meets in there. So it would be, and every now and then, like if it was like really raining bad, we might be able to sneak in there for a couple of reps or something. But for the most part, we never went in there. We never did. So to answer your question about practicing, we don't. And if you watch us, there's a reason why it's usually after the 2nd or 3rd meet, we really start to come alive indoors because we've gotten used to being inside. Because up until the first time we walk inside for a track meet in January, up to that point, we've been outside every day.
So as an athlete, I don't want to say difficult, but how much of an adjustment do you have to make running indoors because the track is so much smaller? And I feel like when I watch an indoor track meet, it's like you got to really make your turns real quick.
Yeah, but it's a big adjustment, especially for some of the bigger guys. I've got a guy that's 6'7", and another guy that's 6'5", and a couple of 6'2", 6'3" guys on our team. So it's very difficult for them because it really hinders their stride length. But I think the biggest thing is just you have to find a rhythm. You have to find the right rhythm to have your body to carry you around the track. So again, that's why it takes us a few times on the indoor tracks to get ourselves going. But it's a mental thing. And what I found is, if you look at over the years, we haven't had a lot of kids from the state of Florida that run really well indoors until their junior or senior years, because most of them never seen an indoor track because they live in Florida. The young people that come in here and do real right away usually are the ones who are from up north.
We got a Facebook Live here brought to you by Meldon Law. Dan wants to know, speaking of facilities, how does the Florida track rank in the track and field in the SEC?
I'll be honest with you. A facility has never won a championship. And so I think our facility is fine. I've had this discussion with folks, a couple of years ago when everybody was, getting new stadiums and getting new this. And, there was this talk of we don't need a new track stadium. And I'm good. We host 2 track meets a year. So the stadium is not the deal. Like, I've got a great track facility itself, the track, my throws area, my jumps areas, everything is great there. And that's where the championships are won. And, the facility is great. And so, I'll answer it like this. We were visiting a school back in 2016, walking around the campus, and a good friend of mine was showing some of the great things they have on the campus. I was like, man, this is really nice. It would be nice to have something like this. He looked at me and he goes, I'll trade you. I'm like, what do you mean? He goes, you can have this. I'll take your national championships. I'm good. I'll keep my championships. So
no doubt.
The facility's not the deal. And I think that's something that people need to understand. Athletes, well-coached athletes, well-conditioned athletes win championships, not, facilities and all that fluff. That's not wins championships. So.
At Chris Doring Mortgage, they do mortgage lending right, helping home buyers throughout Gainesville and North Central Florida. Call Chris Doring Mortgage today at 352-244-0840. We're speaking with Mouse Holloway here from the Crime Prevention Security System Studios. Okay, I got to ask you. We've had some football players run track. I'm trying to think. Jeff Demps, obviously, he was. Who are some of the other guys that I'm forgetting?
Oh man, Jeff Demps, Chris Rainey, Bo Carroll, and probably the biggest one ever was John Capel. For a little while there, he was the NCAA champion in the 200, and he went on to be Olympic finalist in the 200 as well. It was a world champion for us. But I think that those are the main guys. But even guys like, Percy came out and practiced a little bit when he was here. And, Weedell Anthony, some of those guys practiced with us over the years. But we've had Frankie Hammond was an All-American in the high jump for us. A lot of people don't know that. But there was a year when football was half of my national championship 4x1. Rainey let it off and Demps anchored it. So,
Yeah, that's awesome. We just got a text here also, and I know the answer, but Joe wants to know, are you related any to Grant Holloway?
No, we can't find a connection. So, but, we're Gators. So obviously we're family that way. But the ironic thing is that, I'm really doing a lot with the ancestry thing. And I traced his father, grandfather, and great-grandfather, and my father, grandfather and great-grandfather, all to not a small county, but a county in Georgia called Pike County. They're all from Pike County, but we can't find a connection to the two families. So our families are from Pike County, but we can't find a connection yet. So as of today, the answer would have to be no, but I find it hard to believe that we're not going to find a connection eventually because, the county can't be that big. You could have both of our families are huge, and you could have two families that large not be connected in any way at all. So.
That's awesome. Now he was a stud football player, right? Coming out of high school.
Yeah, he was.
Yeah, and he never thought about going out and running some routes for the Gators in football.
I'm going to try to be as diplomatic with this as I can. But I guess it's not as big of a deal because the coach isn't here anymore. But Grant was all about playing football here, and the coach at the time just wasn't sold that Grant was that good. He basically told me that he had people here in the state he thought that were better. and that he needed to lock down the borders of Florida, and that if Grant wanted to come here, fly for track and walk on, he could do that. And that was the plan but that staff just never made a connection with him. And he just called me up and he goes, I want to be a track guy. I want to be the best guy ever. Grant's a relationship person. And I can promise you, if they'd picked up the phone a few times and really got a relationship, he'd have been out there running routes for him, because you have to go watch his YouTube. I mean, it was like Randy Moss. Like it was incredible. Yeah.
I remember people talking about it, and I looked at it, and the last thing you want to do is have a guy of his stature and how great he is in track get hurt. But he's a guy you can just clear out zones, just tell him to run go routes or deep post and lay it up there and let him go get it. It's unfortunate that never happened. We got another text here. Let me pull it up for you here, Mike. It comes from William. William says, are you happy with the new sports complex that's going to be in Celebration Point? There will be an indoor track meet there.
I've seen the schematic. I've heard a lot about it, and I'm excited about it. I think anytime you can they'll be able to bring more youth track meets to indoor track meets here, because the youth in Florida don't have a place to go. And obviously once it's built and we can talk to them and, see, it may even be a possibility we could have a meet or two there. So obviously that would be great. Because I got to believe that it'd be cheaper for us to rent a facility here in town versus putting 60 people on a plane and going across the country. But I'm excited about it. I'm excited to see what it looks like and see if it's something that's workable for us to have competitions in.
Yeah, no doubt. I got to ask you, I've had pretty much all the coaches on my show ever since COVID hit. You being an outdoor sport, have you had to make a lot of adjustments with all of COVID, the way you've coached and handled the kids?
I mean, absolutely. I think that the one thing I tell people is that if you're not going to be cognizant enough to understand this thing is serious. And so even though we're outdoors, we've practiced in smaller groups, we've practiced away from each other, we've done things, our training staff, led by Andy Clark, Yolanda Lawrence, and, Stacey Higgins and our man Duke with men's basketball, they've been phenomenal in helping us get things done and get things done the right way. So it's been a little bit more work for everybody, myself, my assistant coaches, all the staff involved, but you have to make concessions because if you don't, then the spread starts. And then once it starts, as we've all seen, it's hard to contain. So no, we have made concessions. We have practiced in smaller groups, and we were just talking about this the other day. We've got things so spread out. We're trying to figure out how the heck I'm going to practice 4x1 exchanges this spring, but we'll figure that out. But
I didn't even think about that.
Like I said, COVID is real, and we're treating it as such. We are.
Yeah. Talk a little bit about your team this year. Some of the people on it. You got. I think you're at FSU starting today, I believe.
Yes. Yeah. We're excited. I mean, we're coming off an indoor season where the men were 4th and the women were 6th, and we think we're better than that on both sides. And I'll speak to the women first. We've got a great jump crew led up by our phenomenal freshman Claire Bryant, who's second at the NCAA Indoor Championships and broke a long-standing school record. And we got people like returners Brandy Johnson. We've got Taylor Manson in the 400. Our freshman Talitha Diggs, who's a 3rd place in the indoor championships in the 400. And then we got our jump duo, a triple jump duo of Latricia Hooper and Kayla Penn. I'm really excited about our distance crew. Coach Zielinski is really fired up about. We've got some great young distance runners, and then we had a young lady that's had a big breakthrough indoors. Gabby Wilkinson went from 2:05.7 all the way down to 2:02, and she was an All-American indoors in the 800. I think on the women's side, it's kind of like we were with the men. We're just kind of knocking at the door. We got to find a way to break that door down and get in that room and be a part of the championship conversation. On the men's side, Thomas Mardall in the hammer, he broke the school record indoors in the weight throw, and he also was like the number 3 collegiate ever, I think. But he would be our leader in the throws outdoors. And then we get Clayton Brown back. He's an All-American in both the high jump and the triple jump. And we've always run well in the relays, and we shouldn't be any different this year. I'm really excited. We've got a real young jump crew this year, and I just want to be excited to watch them grow up a little bit. But I'm also excited about, our sprinters, Joseph Famboulet, who was All-American indoors in the 200. He's about 6'2", 200 pounds. And so that little tight track was a problem for him, but outdoors we don't have those issues. So, I mean, I'm just excited overall. Anybody that knows me knows I want to stick my nose in there and see if we need to be the best we can be during the championship season. So that would be our goal this year as well.
Well, somebody that knows you just sent in a Facebook Live here. Coach Blunt wants to know, what's the most challenging aspect of coaching right now for you?
Good morning, Peter. The most challenging aspect for me is just, being cognizant of, the mindset of people, because anytime there's a change and, people talk about, the challenges of COVID and, talking about depression and all kinds of things that are going on. And so when you can't do your normal things every day, people, they're different. So I have to watch body language. I have to understand that there are challenges for people that they're not used to. You think about the person that's a social butterfly, that's used to being around people and hanging out. They can't do that anymore.
Right.
So they come into practice, they're a little down. But other than that, I think I've always done a pretty good job of identifying people that have issues and helping them get through them. And so I've never looked at this. This is not a job for me. It's not a challenge for me. It's just basically me showing up every day and pushing these young people to be great. So if there is a challenge, it's just making sure that I keep my energy levels up so I can take care of them.
So in track, because, I've had, Tim Walton on, he only gets X amount of scholarships, same way with Sully. What scholarship wise, how many do you get for track?
Excuse me. I get 18 for the women and 12.6 for the men to cover 21 events. So it can be challenging, and we have to be creative, but we found a way to figure it out. I think the biggest thing is that, having a plan. I think that's a mistake a lot of people make. They just kind of fly by the seat of their pants. But I'm a planner, and understanding that we try to coach to our strengths, and we try to recruit to our strengths. So we recruit to areas we know that we can coach well. We don't just sign somebody just because they got a big mark. If we can't take care of them, we can't coach them. Why sign? So.
John wants to know here on Facebook Live, and you were part of the Olympic team coaching at one time. I can't remember what year it was, 2012 maybe.
Yeah, 2012, I was the assistant, and then I am going to be the head coach in 2021.
Yeah, that's awesome. He wants to know, have any Gator track and field athletes medaled recently in Olympics?
Well, I can't remember the last time we didn't have one medal. We had in 2016, Christian Taylor, Will Clay, both medaled in the triple jump. Karan Clement won the 400 hurdles. Tony McQuay and Armand Hall were both a part of the 4x4 relay team. After 2012, Christian and Will again. I know Tony was a part of a relay team that medaled. So 2008. I go all the way back to 1996 with Dennis Mitchell. That was the first Olympics I attended, and Dennis was a medalist in the relay then. So I really can't remember as far back as 92, and I know I was with Dennis then as well. So as far back as I can remember, all the way back to 1992, there's been at least one Gator in every Olympics that's got a medal of some kind.
And Grant Holloway is going to be part of the Olympic team, right?
Well, he's got to make the team, but definitely, that is the plan. Let's put it that way.
I was going to ask you about that. So let's just say you're coaching the Olympic team.
Mm-hmm.
I think they have the Olympic trials. It seems like it's always out in Oregon. Is that correct?
Yes, sir. That's where it'll be this year. Yeah.
So, Grant comes up, whatever. He knocks over a hurdle, slips out of the blocks or whatever. They go strictly on who wins those events. It makes the team, right?
You have to be in the top 3 on the day.
Oh,
no
wow.
exceptions. No exceptions.
Yeah, that's crazy. All right, Mouse. How's the bowling?
It's okay. I was struggling for a while. I'll admit it. I haven't been able to practice. What is
struggling for you?
Struggling for me is like 170s. But I was actually figured some things out. I was able to practice a little bit. Actually, practiced through the league on Monday night, and then Tuesday night league, I averaged 218 for three games. So I was better Tuesday night. So.
Have you had any players want to challenge you? Because I remember when Coach Spurrier was here. Coach is a big golfer,
right?
So his claim to fame is that none of his current players that he was coaching ever beat him in a round of golf. Have you ever had any players want to out-bowl you?
Well, before COVID hit, there was a lot of talk, and then now that it's started to come out, they're talking again. And I just told them, let me know. My associate coach and my throws coach, Steve Lemke, and I are both pretty good at it, and so we told them to get their doubles partner, and we'll line it up. We'll go take care of them. So, but none of them have actually stepped up to the plate yet. So we'll see if they do.
So the next, I guess, Florida Relays is here in a couple of weeks, right?
Actually, next weekend, next Friday and Saturday. Yeah.
next weekend, Florida relays. Are the general public going to be allowed to come watch that?
No, like just because of all the CDC guidelines, we've only been able to offer tickets to our student athletes and the student athletes from other schools because we just don't have enough space. And we're hoping that maybe it'll get a little bit better for Tom Jones, but right now that's the same thing. I'm not sure right now. I haven't heard any streaming information whether it's going to be streamed or not. But it's just, again, we have to take this seriously, man.
Yeah, there's no question about that. I got to ask you this too. You're such a mile-meter guy. When we throw interceptions, the coach jumps on you, cusses you a little bit here and there. So I got to ask, if you got a bad exchange in the 4x100 relay and it costs you the track meet, does Miles stay composed, or do you kind of get after those guys?
I'm going to get after myself, to be honest with you. If all of my athletes would tell you this, the first time they make a mistake, I always say to them, look, that's on me. I got broad shoulders. I got to coach you better, but I guarantee it won't be my fault again. So the first time it's going to be my fault. Now, the second time, that's a whole different ballgame because I'm going to come back to practice and we're going to get after it. We're going to figure out how to get it done. But, they're young people that make mistakes. Now, the only thing that'll get me, really going is a guy or a girl that's just lack of effort. That's just not acceptable. We train hard every day. And I tell people all the time, you see one of my athletes laying around on the track, that's nuts. It's an act. There's no way. There's no way they're ever going to hurt more than me they do in practice. And we don't do that kind of stuff. But, they're human. They're going to make a mistake. But if you make a mistake going full speed, I can deal with that. It's the athlete that just quits on me that gets to be a bad conversation sometimes. Because we talk about respect of the uniform, respect of the gator on your chest. And, that's big around here.
No doubt about it. So you got to have like a nice display with all your national championship rings, right?
Actually, they're in a box somewhere. My wife knows where it is. I'm not sure exactly where it is, but I'm not that flashy of a guy.
Well, I figured you might have them like in your office, so when kids come on recruiting visits or whatever, you can say. Hey.
They're here at the house someplace.
I got you.
I do, and Angela does put them out when we have recruiting stuff. But I can't remember the last time I wore one of them. Every now and then, if Scott or when Jeremy was here, they'd ask me to come to a function. I'd wear one just because, the boosters like to see them. But, I was asked once if I knew where my national championship trophies were. And I'm like, I don't care where they are. That's the past. And so the rings are the same way. I'm trying to win the next one, my man.
That's awesome. That's awesome. We appreciate you taking the time to join us. Good luck this week at FSU. The rest of the year, we'll be following you. And appreciate you taking the time to join our program, Mouse.
Anytime, man. I really appreciate you guys having me on this morning.
Absolutely. That's Mouse Holloway. Join us on the Titan MR Hotline. Going to take our final time out of today's program. We come back, we'll wrap it up.
We want to take this moment to thank all our sponsors who keep the show going and pay the bills. Our gridiron sponsors are Crime Prevention Security Systems, large enough to serve you, small enough to care. Titan MRI, Gainesville's only locally owned and operated MRI facility. Meldon Law, where you matter most. Peachland Dental, Gator Nation's first choice for dentistry in Port Charlotte. Comfort Temp, comfort is our business, peace of mind is our promise. G-Tech Sport, keep your athletes in the game with G-Tech Sport. Celebration Point Town Center, Center State Bank, Chris Doring Mortgage. Some of our touchdown sponsors are Big Mills Cheesesteaks, MB Listing, Cornerstone Financial, McDonald's of Gainesville, My IT Masters, Gainesville Neon and Signs, 84 Lumber, Tropical Smoothie Cafe, Chick-fil-A on Archer Road, Avera and Smith, Dowling Signs, Chomp Carter Apparel, Ruse Ogra Agent, State Farm Insurance, Silver Cube Billiards and Sports Bar. If you are interested in promoting your business on the show, visit potupwithshane.com and click the Advertise button. Again, thank you to all the great businesses that support the show. If you like what we are doing here, make sure to follow us and support the businesses that support us.
Welcome back to the Crime Prevention Security System Studios at Center State Bank. We put business first. We're the largest community bank in the state of Florida and understand that small businesses need a community business partner that they can rely on. Center State has 4 convenient Alachua County locations. Center State Bank, member FDIC. I want to thank Brent Beaird for joining us and also Mouse Holloway. Tomorrow's program will be joined by JC. We'll also have former Gator running back Terry Jackson on the program. So make sure you tune in, tell your friends, and family to follow our program. Today's show's a wrap, brought to you by Wrap Spot. Be safe, folks. We will see you tomorrow.